What's going on, everybody? This is Chris Martinez from Dynamic Duo Training.
And this is Eric Martinez.
Okay, so we're back again for another educational video, okay? One of the big questions we get in a hot topic usually is the controversy over, a set meal plan or following more of like a counting your calories or counting your macros type of approach, or kind of just winging it and using like your palm of your hands or the size of a fist or the size of your thumb to measure out foods and stuff like that, We actually did a video on this, the pros and cons to eating a meal plan versus, counting your calories before. So if you want to check that video out, make sure to check it out. We'll actually link it in the bottom of this video so you can look at it, okay? Another reason what kind of inspired us on this is there's a good post on these meal plans by Mark Young on Twitter. So it was a great post that he did. It was like an informative post, and we just kind of got inspired by it and just said, why not do a video on this and just kind of touch up on it because, I think the last time we did a video on that, our methods and our ideas and stuff like that have kind of changed and stuff. So, yeah, hope you guys like this video. If you guys have any questions after this, just feel free to email us, okay?
Alrighty, so I guess we'll get started with the first bullet point, which is set meal plans have their place. And when we talk about it and put it like that, I mean, doesn't pretty much a lot of things in life have their own place? A lot of people may not agree with it, but a lot of people don't have to. It really comes down to what works for that person, their lifestyle, their goals, and what they can adhere to overall, okay? So when we talk about, set meal plans having their place, some people have extremely busy schedules, okay? That's just a given. In today's society, a lot of people are working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So, I mean, a lot of people don't have that time to sit there and count their meals every day, each meal with like their macros and stuff. I mean, yeah, should you probably plan ahead, each day? Absolutely. We always advocate that. But I mean, it just doesn't work out that way. Things come up and, people have, really busy schedules. So sometimes setting a set meal plan is not such a bad thing for them, okay? Another good point is, people that need definitive, structure to get started and facilitate motivation. I think this is huge. Why not get yourself motivated? Why not build up confidence and, lead yourself to success that way? I mean, if you build yourself a meal plan within your macronutrients, not just some crazy random cookie cutter stuff. If you build a meal plan within your macros, I mean, you're going to sit there and follow it day to day. You might get tired of the same foods, but that's that person's choice. If that's working for them and they can adhere to that, and that's going to give them confidence going into the week and in even the weekend, then absolutely, that's fine. Another point to touch up on is people have an issue with, misreporting and adherence, okay? There's a lot of platforms out there like MyFitnessPal, My Macros Plus. Sometimes, it's easy to misreport on those. You might, just make a really basic mistake and just forget to input a food, how much of the food, and it can just throw off a whole day's worth of reporting. So, I mean, misreporting is very, very common, and there was actually, some actual studies on that, right, about just misreporting and, how it plays a huge role in weight loss. So, I mean, if you need a set meal plan to keep you on that and know exactly how much you need of this on a day-to-day basis, it's totally fine. Again, overall, what matters most is adherence, okay? The last bullet point is pretty much, just that I'm going to go into on this topic is...
Let me just cut in real quick on the misreporting.
That's fine, that's fine.
So on the misreporting, like what he's talking about is some of the research out there shows that, obviously when you're like in, you're trying to lose weight or something like that, you want to be in a negative energy deficit, right? So what happens is with the misreporting, like just take, for example, measuring out peanut butter in a tablespoon. It's very easy to, measure out a tablespoon of peanut butter and actually have more calories than you're supposed to, okay, as opposed to weighing it out in grams. So right there, if you overestimate it with the tablespoon and you have more calories right there, that could easily erase, the calorie deficit, just by doing that. And you might not even notice by doing that. So that's a big thing that we're talking about with misreporting.
Exactly. And the last thing I was talking about was, people starting out with nutrition or counting their calories and macros. Okay, sometimes it's just a little overwhelming for people to do that. To really just be spot on with hitting their daily protein, carbs, and fat numbers, and their total overall calories within a week. So sometimes a meal plan is just not a bad thing. To really just, like I said before, gain confidence and momentum with it. Okay, so it really just boils down to what that person's goals are, what their schedules are like, and what they can adhere to overall.
Okay, so meal plans lead to some issues. Okay, so what we do, like with ourselves and our clients, is we kind of go off of a hierarchy of nutrition. Okay, we got this from Eric Helms from 3DMJ, but basically, number one on there is basically adherence, consistency, and behavioral habits. Okay, so this kind of goes into behavioral habits, with some of the issues, and that's the thing about these meal plans is it tends to actually go over and cause these weird like habits that people have with foods. When they go to a social scene or something like that, or they go out to dinner or something like that, they feel like they have to bring like their Tupperware with them. They have to bring their scale with them. They can't loosen up and have like a cocktail or something like that because basically you have this set structured meal plan, right? And it's kind of like leading you to think you're either on the meal plan or you're off the meal plan if you have a food outside of that, right? So it creates this bad habit and this behavioral issue of black and white thinking, okay? And there's actually some good research on this too, okay? So there's actually a couple of studies. So it's 1999 and I think 2002 out of the Journal of Appetite. Basically what they did is they compared a rigid diet, which is a meal plan, compared to like a flexible type of dieting approach, okay? So more like flexible dieting, right? And they showed that the people on the rigid plan actually lost less weight, changed less of their body composition, and ended up having these kind of issues that we're talking about, these behavioral issues with foods because of the rigidness with this meal plan. Okay, so yeah, that's really the thing about meal plans leading to issues is just you got to be careful with those because some of those bad behavioral habits can actually occur during those meal plans.
So the next bullet point is advance to different methods. What we mean by this is, let's say, for example, we started a client off with more of what's called a habit-based nutrition plan. So pretty much what that consists of is, just eliminating, minimally refined foods and, incorporating more nutrient-dense and more whole and minimally refined foods, as opposed to just like all that other processed crap. So, that's one way to, start it. Maybe just cut out like, some sodas, cut out the sugar from like candies. Just stuff that, they're really used to just going and grabbing on the go, and then they can just, look toward just more, wholesome foods. It's going to, elevate their satiety, keep their blood sugar levels stable throughout the day, and just really just have that overall carryover to what their goal is, okay? And maybe even, aiming more towards just getting good whole quality lean protein sources as well. A different method that we have used in the past with clients is called a plate of thirds method, okay? So what that pretty much consists of is kind of eyeballing and really estimating your protein, carbs, and fat sources, right? So let's say I wanted you to get, your palm size of a good, lean quality protein size, okay? Protein source, okay? Then I would want you to have a fist full of carbohydrates, okay? Good quality carbohydrates that are going to keep you elevated, okay? Then you would measure out your fat for that meal with like the length of your thumb, okay? And by doing this, it's not something that you would stick to for a long time, but it absolutely cleans up your diet and it makes a huge difference, and that could carry over to you possibly wanting to count macros, count calories, and all that stuff. It would definitely build momentum and confidence, and that is huge, when it comes to adhering to a dieting program or any diet in general.
Yeah, and I would just say too, to add on to that, it just creates like this good like behavioral habit with foods because like you're actually envisioning your plate in thirds. So you have a protein, a carb, and then a vegetable source or something like that, and then a fat source on there. So it gives you like this really good like visual with it, and just creates a really good habit. Starting off and a home base for nutrition. Okay, so the last one is basically do what works for you. Okay. We're very big advocates of, personal preference, okay, because we feel that you'll work hard at it if it's, something that you personally prefer, okay? But with a meal plan, you gotta have a caveat to this, okay? And a caveat to this is basically, knowing what the research has showed, with the rigid diet versus the flexible approach, okay? So knowing that you could occur some of these behavioral habits if you sit there and you follow a meal plan, So another thing to kind of keep in mind is maybe you want to consider cycling a meal plan in, okay? So maybe you are in, an energy surplus and maybe you're just like in a quote unquote bulking cycle, okay? And, maybe that's a time where you don't need a meal plan. Maybe you can kind of just be more flexible on there because you don't have to be so tedious and walk this fine line of a rope of hitting your macros and calories, right, and being so persistent. So that's a good time to maybe be more flexible. Maybe if you are doing some sort of competition, or you have a dieting phase and you absolutely just can't adhere to your macros or calories, then maybe a meal plan or a sample meal plan within your macros as a template and a guide will be very useful for those 12 weeks. And maybe those 12 weeks, you won't occur some of those, behavioral adaptations, okay? So that's something really to consider too. And then always, just keep in mind when we say do what works for you, that number one thing on the hierarchy of nutrition, which is adherence, consistency, okay? And behavioral, of course, but always consistency and adherence is number one, okay? So that's where we come in to say do what works for you, because you're going to actually follow it and you're going to get results if you're consistent with it, okay? Another great quote, and I have to read this off because I just can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's an awesome quote, and it ties so much into this. But give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime, okay? So just think about that, right? The meal plan is for basically someone that can fish for one day, okay? If you have more of a flexible approach and you use that type of approach with your, your dieting or your nutrition, you're going to be able to fish for a lifetime, okay? And you're going to be able to learn so much different things throughout nutrition, learn about cooking, learn about food preferences, so many different things like that, okay? Anything else?
I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, guys. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. Like we said, if you have any questions, please drop us an email at dynamicduotrain@gmail.com or visit our website for more information on blogs and videos and stuff like that. And check out our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, and this guy just started up a Snapchat. He gave in. I told him not to give in, but he gave in. Okay. Other than that, thank you guys very much for all the support, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.